Hi Tech Dad, and once again I'm here to crack open an iPhone and replace a battery. So I've done this before on some earlier versions of the iPhone. For some reason I always manage to burn through batteries within a year, and some of the signs that you have when your battery's starting to go is that the battery level drops really quickly or it charges really quickly. So either of those types of things you start to look for. So what I'm going to do today, and this is thanks to the guys at iFixit for supplying me with the parts and also the helpful guide that I always follow, I'm going to crack this thing open and put it in. So from what I understand, the process is a lot easier. There are minimal steps, and I think Apple has really done a good job at trying to make it easier for their techs to replace batteries and therefore for you to replace batteries. So what I usually do is I read the instructions or watch a video. You could watch mine, for example, or iFixit has some videos as well. And then I go through on the guide and I actually number wherever there is there are some screws to be removed. So in this case it looks like there are only two, but on other iPhones there are usually more, and I have my handy dandy egg carton which is labeled for all the screws to go in. This is a great tool that I use, and this is the same egg carton I've been using for years to do this, but obviously you can get some other ones as well. So I'm going to step through it. The first thing that you want to look at, though, is depending on when your iPhone was made, there are, let's see if I can focus in here, it's kind of hard. There are some screws that are either Phillips head, they're a 00 size, or they're these new types of screws that Apple put in to make it harder, and they're called the pentalobe screws. They look very different, but what iFixit does have is this thing called the iPhone 4 Liberation Kit, and they give you a screwdriver that you can use to take those special types of screws off and then replace it with regular Phillips head screws. So we're going to dive into this in just a second. Okay, so the first step here is to actually remove these little Phillips head screws here. So there are two of them, and we're going to do that first. So the next step is you want to actually slide the rear panel of your iPhone up about 2 millimeters. So I don't know if you can see that, but basically I'm sliding it up. Okay, so once you slide that up, what you're actually going to do is remove the rear panel here from the phone. So just do it very carefully. It should just pop right off. And let me tell you, that is a lot easier than doing it with previous versions of the iPhone. Normally you had to take apart just about everything just to get to the battery. So we're now at the battery. You can see here I have my replacement battery, so we should be good to go. So the next step is we're going to remove this tiny little Phillips head right there that holds the battery into the logic board. So here's a close-up of that screw right there. So I find it helpful to have a set of tweezers to take out some of these screws when they're really small. And if you lose them, don't worry, you can probably pick them up somewhere, but it's better to, I usually put out some sort of a cloth or something, so I do my work on that. So when you pry this off, if you haven't done it before, it probably takes a little bit of effort there. You can see I just popped it off. This is the first time. You don't want to do it too much because you don't want to break any of the contacts that are in there. So there it is. And just to give you a point of reference, this is the new battery. You can see what the contact actually looks like when it's removed here. So you can see on the underside as well. So that's what you're going to be taking off. If you notice, there is a little piece of plastic here that you don't want to lose. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I'm sure we'll find out in a few seconds. Okay, so the next step is to actually grab this plastic thing here and try to pull out the battery. You have to be careful when you do this because sometimes they use a lot of adhesive to hold the battery down, so it's kind of hard to get it out without tearing the tab. So just if it's hard to do, you can pry it up very carefully using one of these tools again, and I'm going to actually just try and pry this thing off and then kind of go from there. So I actually had to take this tool and just sort of carefully put it in here to pop it up a little bit, loosen it up. Just be careful on the connections because the iPhone is obviously a very fragile device. So once you loosen it up, you should be able to pop it out. Okay, I did most of my work prying on this end, and it looks like I almost have it out. Let's try it right there so you can see it's kind of loosened up. Let's see if I can just use my hands now to get the rest of it up. It's probably because of the excessive glue that's in there, but there we go. So that is the old battery. It's officially out, and you can see there's some adhesive in there. Didn't really need to use that pull tab that much. Alright, so here's the new battery, and I always love this in the iFixit guides. The directions for the rest of the process is, okay, do everything in reverse. I've always loved that. So I'm just going to go through and try and reconnect everything and pay careful attention to, let's see if I can get a close-up of this. In this area here, there was a little black thing that I wasn't quite sure what it was, but it's a it helps with the connector right there, so just be sure that you put it back in the right order. So I'm going to assemble it now. So here's a little tip on something that isn't in the iFixit guide. The ribbon right here gets kind of extended when it comes, so what I actually recommend is attach the screw first all the way through. Make sure that you have this little plastic thing seated in the right order. So attach it first and then put the battery in so that you can sort of flex it into place. So that's what I'm going to do next. So be sure that when you do put it in that you press it down so that it snaps into place. So the next step that I did was I simply, once that was screwed in, I just simply slid it down. And so the battery is now in, and I'm just going to reassemble it the way I took it apart. So you can push down on this a bit to make it adhere to the base. So just put the base on here and slide it back down, and then put your screws back in, and that should be it. Alright, so the screws at the bottom here are back in, and it looks like everything looks pretty solid. So this is always the moment of truth. Powering it up, see if it turns on, and it says that I need to charge it. So at least that's a good sign that it is recognizing the battery. So I'm going to charge it up and see if we can get it going from there. Alright, so I plugged it in. I just figured I'd fire it up right now. While it's booting up, I just wanted to thank iFixit for supplying me with the battery. Batteries cost about $20, and you can get the tools for a couple bucks as well, and the guide is free to download. They also have videos on their site. I always look to their site first, pretty much, to check out before I do any kind of repairs. This is probably one of the easiest things that I've ever done. It is a little bit delicate in terms of the work, but once you do it, you can probably change a battery in about 5 minutes. And thanks to Apple for making it a heck of a lot easier than previous models. So anyway, it's booting up. If you want to read more about this process, you can look on my site, and that's at www.hightechdad.com, and I have other how-to and fix-it guides there as well as some product reviews of hardware and software. And if you have any questions, you can also ask me on Twitter, and I'm at HiTechDad.